Now don't get me wrong when you read the title of this video. I am not calling patch 1.3's DLC additions bad. I bare minimum like everything included in Expansion Pass Wave 3. I'm just saying that from the terms of making an actual review video about the patch itself, there's not really a lot to talk about because DLC Wave 3 is the only significant thing added. That will, of course, get its own lore breakdown later, but for now, let's speedrun the bug fixes introduced in this patch because, besides the DLC, that's the only thing actually changed. Normally that would be a good thing, and the fact that there's only a handful of specific major bugs mentioned in the notes is genuinely great because, hey, Monolith has been making progressively more stable games than Xenoblade 2, and you'll love to see that. But Xenoblade 3 is still missing basic quality of life features that have been present in previous games in the series and were not included in this one, so the fact that they're not including any more of that, don't really know what to say. In addition to the stuff in the patch notes, I would be remiss to not mention that there's been a lot of Datamind information about the Wave 4 story campaign, including presumed names of party members, names of campsites, and names of cutscenes. I will not be discussing any of this information outside of maybe a dedicated video where I just talk about that, and in future analyses of later trailers and pre-release material, I will be pretending that I have not seen any of that information. I would like to say a couple things very, very vaguely alluding to the Datamind content now, so wait until this text disappears from the screen before unmuting the video if you don't want to know anything about that. The Datamind information has done nothing to decrease my intrigue about the content of the story in the expansion, and based on the amount of cutscenes, it does seem like Takahashi's statement that it will be a Torna-length expansion is correct. However, it only appears like it might have a slightly longer story than Torna, which, in a vacuum, is fantastic, but does basically confirm that Xenoblade 2's DLC pass will contain more content overall than Xenoblade 3's did for the same price, and that unless something very major happens in between now and that DLC releasing, Xenoblade 2 will have gotten significantly better post-launch support than 3 did, which is really unfortunate, and will probably make 2 go down in history as the overall better complete package. Okay, can you tell I'm stalling because I don't really have a lot to say about these bug fixes? Let's just talk about them now. Fixed an issue where some enemy models were placed where the name and enemy did not match. Issues where some Testudos were called Armadillo and some Armadillos were called Velites, respectively. It lists the Testudo Armadillo thing as a sub-bullet point, so I'm assuming that those are just 2 major examples, and maybe there were some other instances where that occurred, and there were just only 1 or 2 cases of misnamed enemies, while those were bigger and more frequent, and maybe those were actually reported by people into Monolith, which is how they figured this issue out in the first place. I don't really have much to say about that. It's just a simple issue that doesn't actually affect gameplay, so yippee. Fixed an issue where leveling from class rank 9 to 10 when clearing the final battle would not unlock appearances that should be unlocked. I believe that I had heard of this happening at some point before. I'm guessing it was just a misaligned flag or flag did not occur type thing, and that's great. Now you can use the final boss battle to unlock costumes properly, and they'll even grandfather in a fix to that issue if it already occurred to you, which I love when they do that. It seems in this case like it would be a relatively easy thing to do, so in every single bug where something like this occurs, it might not be possible, but I always like when they will basically not punish you for having had the bug happen to you in the first place. Fixed an issue where completing Roald, Floran, and Zuza Collectopedia entries would cause them to display the initial reward. I don't know if this was a bug for everyone or only a conditional one, but I have heard of this one before, so it's good to hear that a lot of things that had been talked about online revolving around bugs are actually being addressed and explicitly stated in the patch notes, because the last bullet point, it's a Nintendo thing, is always going to be we fixed additional things, so I'm assuming that all of the bugs listed in the bullet points specifically and have actual descriptions for them are ones that were either reported in multiple times, people at Nintendo had seen discussion about online in the past, or were ones that were major that more people would be likely to see. So, like, additional issues could be the game will drop 1 frame when walking in this one very specific area of a lace highway, or something very major that no one pointed out, and we're not going to point it out because it makes us look bad. Next up, fixed an issue in challenge battles where lowering the effects volume and audio settings would still cause battle sounds and footsteps to sound comparatively loud. Not really much to say about this one. Your changed settings should be allowed to work properly, so it's good that they made them work properly. Fixed an issue where sliding down a rope using a specific timing would cause party members to continuously be KO'd and resurrected. This is one of those bugs that they honestly probably shouldn't have fixed because it's really funny. Like, I get why they'd want to take this out of the game, but consider, it's really funny. It's the equivalent of one of those wonky translation lines in Xenogears that, while the game definitely needs to be relocalized from the ground up if it ever gets re-released, should still be kept in because it's goofy and iconic, and in most cases such lines are positioned in a way where they don't actually detract from the story in any meaningful way. So, yeah, this is almost the equivalent of if Definitive Edition had actually completely neutered the ice physics, which I don't think anyone would want to happen, so I don't know. Might be a bad move here, Nintendo. In better moves, fixed an issue where pressing buttons using a specific timing during a loading screen would cause the battle menu to appear after launching the game. This is one of those, it's virtually impossible to have your bug testers actually input every single combination of buttons at every single weird situation throughout the game, so some of these are going to slip through no matter what, and it's going to take the comparatively larger amount of monkeys on typewriters that is the general player base to actually find this, so I am not surprised whatsoever that it took several months after the game to be released for it to even be found, let alone implemented. Our last normal bullet point is fixed an issue where successfully completing Mio's chain order would not cause attacker and healer hate to decrease. This is funny mostly because Mio's chain order basically didn't work until now, and people a lot of the time didn't realize it didn't work because of a placebo. They did announce like at least a month ago that yes, a fix to this specific issue would be coming in the next patch. So yeah, I don't know if they received a lot of reports in other languages, but I didn't see English-speaking players talk a lot about it until like after this announcement came out. So I feel like at least the Western circles that I've seen a lot of people in didn't actually notice this bug was a thing and did fall for the placebo. I saw high-end players were like, yeah, this makes sense. I always thought the reduction wasn't a lot or didn't really feel like it happened, but I never saw anyone who actually knew this was a thing. So I'm wondering where they finally got the bug reports to figure this out in the first place. Or hey, maybe it was just doing bug testing in challenge mode when they were working on the Wave 3 stuff. Who knows? But this was kind of the big set piece bug fix for this entire patch. So yeah, don't really have much else to say. I would say expect at least one bug fix patch in between now and Wave 4 coming out, just because Wave 3 is likely to introduce a lot of things. It comes with a new accessory crafting system, a new unique challenge mode, and a new class that has different interactions with a few things than anything else in the game. So it is very likely that there are going to be some new bugs introduced in this patch, so they're going to need their own fix that is likely to come sooner rather than later, because there's a range of like 6 to 8 months where Wave 4 could actually drop, and I'd hope that we don't actually have to wait until December, if that's when it comes out, to get more bug fixes. But until such a time, or until next video, which is going to be much sooner than then, hopefully, like, comment, and subscribe, and until then, I am Luxon, signing off.